Hi guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to be making sourdough dinner rolls. These sourdough dinner rolls bake up nice and fluffy and delicious, and they have that wonderful sourdough flavor that we love when we use a sourdough starter. And on that note, if you are one that doesn't have a sourdough starter but you'd like to make your own, I will leave a link in the description below for how to make a sourdough starter. Most often we're used to long fermenting or making things ahead of time when we're using a sourdough starter, and you can certainly do that with this recipe by omitting the yeast that we're going to be using in it. However, today we're going to pretend you're like me and you woke up on Thanksgiving morning and you had every intention to make sourdough homemade dinner rolls, but you forgot to do the prepping the night before. And that is what this recipe is so perfect for. It takes a very minimal amount of rise time, so you could make them up in the morning, have them ready to go by your Thanksgiving dinner, and that's why I wanted to share this recipe with you in particular. So let's get into the recipe. We're going to begin by placing 1 tablespoon of sugar into a mixing bowl and a half a cup of lukewarm water. Finally, we're going to sprinkle 1 packet of active dry yeast over the top of that. We're going to let that rest for 3 minutes. All right, now that that's set for 3 minutes, we're going to add 2 eggs, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, a teaspoon of sea salt. I have my sourdough starter here. I'm going to add 1 cup of starter to this. Now, you do not have to feed your starter when making this because we did put the active yeast in it. However, if you want to do a long ferment for your sourdough rolls because you're thinking ahead, go ahead and feed your starter and then mix your batter up, making sure that you do not put the active yeast in it because you are going to do a long ferment for yours, so you won't need that active yeast. Today, we are actually using a sourdough starter that has not been fed.
Adding 1 cup of our unfed starter for flavor.
Finally, I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour going into this. Give it just a little bit of a mix to help the mixer out. Depending how thick your starter is, you might need a little bit more of flour. That's why the recipe calls for 3 to 3.5 cups. So start with 3 cups and see how it looks. Or if it's a little bit too tacky, add a little bit more flour until it's nice and doughy.
Placing my dough hook on, I'm going to finish blending this until a dough ball is formed. Then I'm going to set the mixer to low and knead for 6 minutes.
Your dough should feel nice and supple. It'll have a very nice and soft feel and touch to it. We're gonna put it in a greased bowl and put a tea towel over it and let it sit for about an hour until it almost doubles in size. And one comment I do wanna make to you on the first rise is, if you have a very cold kitchen, it might take an extra hour. So get these started a little bit earlier just in case you have a very cold kitchen and you need that second hour to rise. Right now it's time to make our sourdough dinner rolls. We're going to shape them and get them into a baking dish so that they can do a second rise. I'm going to go ahead and take our dough and get it onto a floured surface. And I'm just going to kind of smash it out and cut it up into 12 pieces. I have our greased baking dish. This is a 9x13 baking dish, just to give you an idea. I'm going to go ahead and set our dinner rolls right inside there. And remember, these are going to rise. So just make sure that we're kind of evenly putting them in. We're going to cover these again with a tea towel and let them rest for another hour. To brush the tops of our sourdough dinner rolls, I'm going to take an egg and I'm going to separate it because I like to use just the yolk when I make an egg wash. I add just a little bit of water, about a teaspoon to the yolk, and I blend it up. Now we're going to get these into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen today. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. I will see you on the next one.